Hey, I'm Molly Sims.
And I'm Emese Gormley. We're two girls obsessed with one thing, beauty.
And by that, we mean everything that makes you look
And feel
beautiful.
We're calling on our favorite health experts, industry insiders, and friends to answer all your beauty questions.
With a drink in hand.
Definitely with a drink in hand.
You're listening to Lipstick on the Rim with Molly Sims. You guys, I'm just going to say one sentence. 100 ways to change your life. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Small shifts, real results. Don't you think we're ready?
I do. I think there's so much wellness advice out there, and it honestly can become super, super overwhelming. And it's nice to have something that actually might give us a little bit of clarity.
Also, when it comes to reaching your goals in your health, relationships, confidence, happiness, which is why we're very happy to have Liz Moody. She's the author of 100 Ways to Change Your Life, The Science of Leveling Up Health, Happiness, Relationships, and Success. Liz Moody, I'm so happy you're here. She's also the host of the Liz Moody podcast, which is the #1 wellness and health podcast, female hosted, which is amazing. Okay, Liz, why this book? Why now? You've made a shift. I mean, you've always been into wellness. You've always been into food. What made you write this?
Yeah. So this book really came out of what you were just saying, where everybody feels really overwhelmed all of the time these days. We feel exhausted, we feel burnt out, and we know that we deserve to feel better. We want to feel better, but we don't quite know how to get there. And so this book, and then all of the work that I do on the Liz Moody podcast, really comes from that place of how can we take the science that exists, these incredible experts and doctors that are out there, and how can we ask them the right questions? I've been a journalist for 20 years, and so I'm directing that now at these people so that we can get the information that we need to change our lives. And it really comes from, I want myself and I want my listeners to feel as good as possible every single day. So we're not biohacking for the sake of it. We're not like adding all of these things to our routines because some influencer on Instagram tells us to. We're like, where do I want to get? How do I want to feel? And what is the easiest, almost like laziest way that is grounded in science that I can get there?
Well, I love what you wrote. It's built around tiny science-backed changes. Why do small habits work better than big resets?
Because we stick to them. So consistency is the #1 goal with anything. And often when we're trying to change our lives, we're like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym and I'm going to go every single day. And you get exhausted. You get burnt out on that so quickly. So if you can do something that's even a minute or 2 minutes, but you can do that every single day, you're going to notice a real change with that. And science grounds that. Science shows us that that's true. You can actually work out for just 4 minutes a day and you can experience a 36% reduction in your risk of cancer. 4 minutes a day. You'll have a 36% reduction in your risk of cancer. Something like micro connections, that's just like smiling at somebody on the street, making conversation with somebody at the grocery store. That's going to help support your immune system. That's going to help make you more optimistic. So all these little tiny habits, they actually do make a real difference.
And they add up.
They add up.
And they also, I think, to your point, you're not setting yourself up to fail. Because I think sometimes when we have these big, lofty goals in mind, getting there becomes overwhelming and then we give up. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I can't do it. I can't make any change.
100%. Wins are going to help us have more wins. So we need to set ourselves up with wins along the way if we want to keep habits going. The science is very, very clear about that. I also think we get mired in these shoulds. This is what a workout routine should look like. This is what healthy eating should look like. This is what a morning routine should look like. Versus saying, what do I need and what is serving me? And I think that can be really tricky to unpack in this day and age where we're bombarded with so much outside information.
What's one habit people underestimate that has an outsized impact?
I'd say circ walking. That's something that almost everybody in my community does. That's just getting outside and going for a walk for 10 to 15 minutes as close to when you wake up and the sun comes up as possible. And the reason this is going to have an outsized impact is because our circadian rhythm dictates 99% of the cells in our body. So our circadian rhythm dictates our digestion, how many nutrients we're getting out of our food, how our hormones are functioning on any given day, our energy levels, how well we're going to sleep at night, like how much quality of sleep we're going to get when we are sleeping. All of these things are dictated by our circadian rhythm, and our circadian rhythm is dictated by light primarily and contrasting light. So we want a lot of light in the morning and we want not very much light at night, and that's going to tell our cells essentially what time it is so they function properly, so we get all these benefits.
It is true. It's like opening those curtains, letting that light in, or closing the curtains. I feel not as relaxed until I've done certain things.
100%. And well, there's a few things going on there. One, there are signifiers. So like we love routines as humans. So even if you have like, I always do this thing at this time, that's actually going to have an impact on your circadian rhythm too. What time we eat, when you're like doing your bedtime routine. Those are all signifiers for that internal clock. But also the lighting thing really does make a huge difference. We all kind of know about the morning walk thing at this point, or maybe we've heard about like get light in your eyes. But I think the contrast is really under talked about. So at night, if you like go into the bathroom to brush your teeth and you flip on the light and it's a really bright overhead light, even though that's not the sun, that's signaling to your brain that it is time to wake up. And if you're at work and you're in this sort of like dark cave of an office, that's signaling to your brain that it is time to go to sleep. So no wonder at like 2 p.m. you're sitting there and you're just like falling asleep on your computer.
Well, I think we're, coming out of winter, and they on the East Coast have had a really hard, they're cooped up. It's
awful.
Dark. It's cold.
You're like, I need to have a trauma session about this.
Is there a circ walk I could do in my kitchen just staring out the window and like hoping that does
No,
that
there is.
work?
So if it's about like lux of light. So sunlight is always going to have more lux than indoor light, but you can get one of those sun lamps and you can sit in front of it, and that's going to be, it's not as good as the sun, but it's the next best thing.
What are some other small habits?
So one that I love is just holding your partner. There's a lot, or any person, that physical touch. There's so much research that physical touch regulates our nervous systems. And so me and my partner, we will hold each other before we go to bed. We'll just kind of like lay there snuggling, but you can literally feel your nervous system calm down. Sometimes if I'm nervous about a podcast interview, I'll like pick up him or I'll pick up my cat and I'll just give him a little bit of a cuddle, and that releases oxytocin. And so it's going to calm our systems down.
I 100% believe that.
I think that other people are one of the things we should be talking about a lot more when it comes to our health. I think we sometimes get mired in like the supplements and the like different like specifics of workouts and the nutrients. Should you be eating this food or this food? And actually the world's largest study, the Harvard Study of Adult Development, shows that the single thing that impacts the length and the quality of our life is the quality of our relationships. So that's going to impact how long you live and how good you feel as you're living more than anything you eat. Whether you smoke or don't smoke, whether you work out or don't work out, it's the strength and quality of your relationships. And yet, those are the things that we like push to the bottom of the to-do list.
Well, you read people who are alone, who don't have trouble making friendships, have trouble making long-lasting they don't live as long.
Well, and I think that we live in a society that is making it increasingly harder to form good friendships. And I think this is for a very specific reason that we're not talking about enough, which is friction. I'm obsessed with this right now. So I believe that we have our cozy friends. Those are the friends that we like curl up next to on the couch, that we can be silent with, that we're just like, these are our cozy friendships.
You're my cozy.
You're my cozy. Yeah, we can sit and be cozy all day long.
I love that. And before you get to the cozy era, you have what I call the creation era. So research shows it takes about 50 hours to turn somebody from a stranger into a friend. It takes 200 hours to turn somebody from a stranger into a best friend. That is a very long time.
Took us like 2.
You instantly
we have like 200 hours logged and like, easy, fast.
Well, and it is like something like doing a podcast together is a great way to log those hours. And what we don't talk about is those beginning hours are gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna be sitting there sometimes and you like don't quite know what to say to them. They ask you a question. You're like, can I talk about this? Can I not talk about this? That creation era has a lot of friction, a lot of discomfort. And increasingly, we live in a world that's made us less able to deal with discomfort. Any moment that you're like brushing your teeth, you're at a stoplight, you pick up your phone. You don't sit with your own thoughts anymore.
We were actually talking to Zilana. She wrote an incredible book
Finding your focus.
And it was like, literally, we don't sit in silence. She was like, the other day, I just listened to music and I drove and I didn't call you.
Yeah. And I actually ended up turning my music off.
And just sitting there.
And just sitting in silence in the car.
Powerful wellness hack that we do not talk about enough. Literally just the art of doing nothing and sitting there with your own thoughts and sitting there in discomfort. And I think we don't talk about how all of that is going to translate. I think the people in the next 5 to 10 years who are learn to sit in discomfort are going to be the people who are going to find the most success at work, in relationships, in this world where AI is making it easier and easier to just instantly get responses, to not have to write something. You just have AI write that uncomfortable email for you. And you can order Uber Eats, so you don't have to sit and wait around. Amazon Prime has made it so that if something takes more than 48 hours to get to you, you're like, well, that's insane.
I'm a same day woman. I'm like, I filter for same day because I'm like, I'm not waiting 2 days.
Which is new. We don't talk about how new this paradigm of I want what I want when I want it. I want it right now. And the people who are working that muscle of like leaning into friction and being able to deal with friction, they're going to find so much more success in their work, but also in our friendships, because friendships require friction.
So what is that? What is a friction friendship?
So it's just that early stages when you're first getting to know somebody, when you're going from the 0 hours to the 50 hours, it's going to be more uncomfortable than picking up your phone and scrolling. And I think that's why sometimes you'll like say yes to plans and we'll be like, well, I'm too exhausted, so I'm not actually going to go out and I'm going to sit and scroll on the couch instead. And I think the reason that's happening in our brain is because the frictionlessness of scrolling is really appealing versus we know there's friction and having to go out and like make conversation, ask somebody questions about themselves, answer questions about ourselves. So my little hack to get over this friction heavy phase is to have something that you do together. I think it is insane that the normal friendship date is like you go out to dinner or drinks. All you do is stare into each other's eyes for like 2 hours. You have all of the burden of making conversation. I'm an introvert, so like this is like my nightmare. I hate it. Do something together. Learn a skill. Have a book club together where you read a book and then you talk about the book. Do a sport, do an activity, play tennis. Anything that you can do to make those early hours that you're accumulating to get to the cozy era of friendship have a little bit of a buffer can be really helpful for dealing with that friction.
Well, I think what's so interesting you said is, you know, the scrolling. Some people are more comfortable. And when you think about it, our Instagram, for example, is so smart and it knows what to feed us. So it's literally actually putting more content in there that draws you in because it learns what you like and what you're pausing
knows you
on.
like to shop.
And it's like, not only knows what you like, it knows what's going to stimulate the greatest reaction for you, which is something that I don't think we talk about enough. The stuff you are fed on Instagram or TikTok or any form of social media is either going to be the stuff that you strongly disagree with because that's going to make you incredibly angry, which is going to make you sit and watch the whole video and it's going to make you react. Those are usually the comments that you're shown. If you look at comments too, you'll notice the first few often seem really negative, and that's because they know that's going to get you fired up and that's going to make you more likely to leave a comment. Or it's the content that you strongly agree with because then your identity is reinforced and then you want to keep scrolling. And so I think we don't talk enough, or we're not aware enough of how much we live in these false realities online that are really intentionally being manipulated to keep our attention, but not to enhance our society in any way, shape, or form.
What's one habit people underestimate that has an outsized impact?
Flossing. I think flossing it's not cool. It's not sexy, but it is one of the most powerful things that we can do every single day. First of all, it's going to make your breath smell way better. I don't know if you've ever smelled your floss after you've flossed. Do it one time. You will never not floss again. It's like a really powerful experience. But two, we're discovering more and more about the link between our oral health and our brain health. So not flossing is going to increase your risk of Alzheimer's. It's going to increase your risk of early stage dementia. It's going to increase your risk of all of these different essentially brain inflammatory diseases. And one of the most powerful ways that we know at this moment to reduce that risk is flossing. And it takes, a minute a day.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Is that the least sexy thing somebody's ever said on this podcast?
I love it so much. Chapter 55, be the CEO of your household. We have 6 children between us.
That is a lot.
2 husbands, 4 dogs. I have heard this term before, be the CEO you want to be, right? But what does it What do you mean when you say be the CEO of your household?
Yeah, fundamentally, it means give your household the same attention that you would give essentially a business, because this is the business of your life. And in some ways, all of the other businesses that you're doing are kind of trying to serve the business of your life. But often we give the business of our life the least weight and the least attention at the end of the day. And so I think that can mean different things to different people. But like my husband and I, for example, we get together and we have meetings once a week where we talk through both the logistics of our life and how we're going to plan. And we kind of try to reduce any frictions that might come up around our plans for the week. But we'll also talk about like, how did you feel supported by me last week? How could I better support you next week? Because we know the foundation of the company of our lives is our relationship with each other.
I love that you can pick up your book at any chapter, flip through it, and there's a way to change your life. Chapter 59, eat 30 types of plants per week.
So one thing I do want to caution with the book, with my podcast, we have 2 episodes a week. It's a lot of information. And I'm so passionate about getting the latest, greatest science into people's hands and telling them how to action it. And I think it can feel overwhelming sometimes, especially like you're scrolling on social. It's like, do this thing, do this thing, do this thing. There's 100 tips in this book. There's tips in every one of my podcast episodes. And I think it's so important to trust that once that information's in your brain, like it will know when it needs it. So like let it come in, enjoy listening to it. But then, you don't need to do all these things at once. One of my big goals with my podcast is to not add overwhelm to people's already overwhelming lives. And so I think knowing like, one day your relationship might be feeling a little like it needs some love, it needs some work. We've got tips, tools for that. But maybe another day you're like, God, I wish I pooped better. So like we got tips for that. Like your brain knows it's there. It's in the catalog. So trust that you'll find it when you need it.
I love this chapter. It says get dirty. I love that, right? Get dirty, go out, be in nature.
I want to go back to the 30 plants
plan.
a week.
With their 30 plants
So
a week.
this
Give us
came
back
from
30
one of
plants
the
a week.
largest nutrition studies that we've ever done. It's called the American Gut Project. And they found that the thing that best predicted our gut health, which we know more and more now, our gut health is going to impact our brain health, our hormone health. Basically, everything starts in the gut because that's where we're absorbing nutrients. That's where we're creating postbiotics, all these different things, is diversity of plants. So they were trying to figure out, like, should we eat this thing? Is it this type of diet? Is it this type of diet? And the thing that they found is more than anything else, it is having a number of different plants because essentially your bacteria are sitting there in your gut and they're hungry and they need to eat different things to produce different postbiotics. And different bacteria have sort of different food preferences. So some of your bacteria might thrive on beets, while another bacteria might thrive on flax seeds. And so the more diversity you're going to get in your diet, the more of your good bacteria are going to flourish, proliferate, and create those postbiotics that are going to have these systemic downstream impacts on your body, which are going to lower inflammation. They're going to help your brain health. They're going to help all of these different systems in your body, essentially. This is a story I love to tell. I had this incredible doctor who studies cancer on my podcast. He's one of the most cited scientists in the world. So he's done the most research papers of almost anybody in the world. And he said when he works with cancer patients, one of the first things that he does is he has them massively increase the amount of fermented foods in their diet because of the very well documented effect that fermented foods have on our immune system. So I'm like, if it's good enough for the people that one of the most cited scientists in the world is working with on their cancer treatments, it's certainly something that's worth me prioritizing, trying to include every day.
So if I got kimchi that they sell at the grocery store, just have like a fork
Sauerkraut.
Yeah. The only key is it has to be sold in the refrigerated section. Otherwise, it's not actually fermented.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that.
How
You can
in
do
the
that.
world did you get into all of this?
I had a very kind of traumatic origin story with it. So I've been a journalist since I was a teenager. I pitched a column to my local paper and I said, you guys should have a column for teenagers and it should be written by me. And I think they were like, we don't know what to do with this girl, but okay. And then that ended up being nationally syndicated. And I wrote that for years. I ran a newsroom out of college, all these things. But when I was in my late 20s, I had moved to England with my now husband. He got into a graduate program out there. And I became really isolated from my community and I became completely agoraphobic. So I went from having this thriving life, I'd been living in New York City before that, to having panic attacks whenever I got out of bed. So I essentially was bedbound for months because I had such extreme anxiety. At points was like, I'm not sure that life is worth living if I'm going to have this extreme discomfort all of the time. But the skill that I had honed up to that point was asking experts for advice. So I started emailing all these people that I had absolutely no business emailing like researchers at Harvard and Stanford and all that, and trying to figure out what was going on with my anxiety and what I could do to fix it. And that's when my journalistic endeavors switched to the health and wellness world, which has stuck ever since.
It's amazing.
And you just all of a sudden kind of starting going down this bad path.
Yeah. It was like a little bit and then all at once type of thing. And I really think it was a number of things, but lack of community is a big one that I've pinpointed.
Do you think it was
the loneliness. I mean, back to like a lot of the other stuff we're talking about, but It's
funny, when I was a model, I'd moved from Germany and I was very lonely in Germany. But when I started to work, so I would go and, I went to Vanderbilt, I was a Tri-Delt, and then all of a sudden I was living with an older German woman by myself, did not speak the language, in the dead middle of winter. I'm very outgoing. I don't come from a lot of depression, even though I can get quite anxious, and there are periods of my life that have been depressed. I just remember I was so desperate at this point, like a year and a half later, that I asked a girl if I could move in with her to live on her couch because I needed
human contact.
And so I could see how being isolated without your family, your friends, your community can be really deteriorating.
Well, and this is something that I'm really worried about for the current moment, because I think a lot of us are feeling levels of that, even if it's not that extreme, where we are having most of our connection be online, whether it's on Zoom calls for work or our friendships are happening on social media and via text message and stuff. And we really need that in-person connection, which again requires that friction that we're becoming increasingly uncomfortable.
Why do you think so many people are motivated to change, but they still ultimately get stuck?
I think there's so many reasons. I think one is we do need rewards. And so you need rewards along the way. So if something isn't inherently rewarding for you, so for instance, I just did a podcast about how to actually crave exercise. And the person that I interviewed was talking about how science shows that it takes 6 weeks of exercising for 4 times a week to actually get that craving and want to do it. That's kind of a long time, 6 weeks of doing 4 times a week. So in that intermediary time, you really need to build in little rewards for yourself. You need to do it with a friend and have that be like your catch-up time, which is one of my favorite things to do. This is called temptation bundling, and it's one of the most effective ways to do things we don't want to do. You can save a podcast or something that you really love to listen to, but you only get to do that thing when you're doing the thing you don't like. So if you hate folding laundry and you save your very favorite TV show and you're like, I only get to watch this TV show when I'm folding laundry, that's temptation bundling. That's how I got myself to work out for years. We have to find those ways to get to the place where the habit we're trying to do actually feels rewarding.
How did wellness become something, I think, that feels more stressful these days instead of actually supportive
and calming, which is what it's supposed to do?
Yeah. So this is something I try to never lose sight of with my own work, is that wellness is a tool. It is not an end unto itself. The second that in the quest to be well, you feel worse, that is not wellness anymore. That is contrary to the point of everything we're trying to do here. The reason that happens is, I think, largely because of social media, largely because of capitalism, because a lot of people are invested in having our attention and our money. And so they come up with different headlines all the time. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to spend this. We don't need all of these things to feel the best that we can, but the internet makes us feel like we do need those things. And then all of a sudden wellness feels like a chore. It feels overwhelming, instead of how can I find the things that will support me in having the relationships, life, work life, all of that I want to have.
True or false with Liz? Myth number 1, you need discipline to change your life.
Oh, no, I don't think that relying on anything like discipline or motivation is actually going to get you anywhere. I am so lazy. I'm one of the laziest people on the planet. Yeah, 100%. I'm like a wake up at 8 or 9. I like things to be easier. I just did a podcast that was like how to be lazier to get more ahead in life.
You have never in my entire life that I've known you come off as lazy. Just so you know.
I'm tricking everybody. But no, I think that we need to set up systems. I think that our habits fall to the level of our systems. So for me, like having a friend that I do my workouts with, that's going to hold me accountable. I know I need that system. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. So I would say figure out the things that you want to do in your life and figure out how you can create systems to support those things, including everything from like staying off your phone. What's your system? Don't sit there and try to stay off of this device that's been engineered by the literal world's greatest minds to be addictive. You're not going to be able to outcompete those minds. Set up a system so that you stay off of it. Anything you want to do in life, set up a system.
So what's a system to get off your phone?
I have a brick. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a thing that it's like a little square, and I keep mine on my fridge. It's a magnet, and you scan it. And once you scan it, you block certain apps and you set that up. And until you rescan it, you can't access those apps. So like, you like
You're
set those
putting
like
your phone in prison.
You're putting your phone in prison. I set those like TikTok limits, and it's like, you've been on for 5 minutes. And I'm like, ignore. Like if it's on my phone, I'm going to ignore it. So I need something that's fully going to not let me do it even when I'm trying to do it.
Morning routines are essential for success.
I don't think so. I think what we do need is a few anchors to help us feel the way that we want to feel all day. That's the point of a morning routine. It's gotten very convoluted online with people showing like their 17 steps, whatever. I think the point of a morning routine is to set yourself up to feel the way that you want to feel throughout the day. That could be for you going outside in the morning and just taking 3 deep breaths. That could be for you calling your mom in the morning. I don't think it needs to be the same every day. I think it's helpful to ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? And is what I'm doing right now supporting or harming the way that I want to feel today?
Supplements fix bad habits.
No, I don't. I think that I don't think that's true. That's false. I think that supplements can be really supportive. I think that they can be incredibly helpful. We have nutrient depleted soil. There's some incredible scientific advancements happening in supplements with things like Urolithin-A is going to help with mitochondrial health. That's like very cool science and research.
Something you like that we can take that you would suggest?
I think it's going to be different for everybody based on their goals, but there's really interesting science happening. And universally, I can tell you what I take if that's helpful.
Yeah.
So like one recent one that I've discovered that I like is called Urolithin-A, and it helps with your mitochondrial health.
Can you just spell that?
Urolithin-A. And that's the supplement I take for that is called Timeline. I think that one can be really helpful, especially for longevity. It's because it's going to support your mitochondria, which if we remember from science class, powerhouse of the cell. Our whole body is filled with cells that we want to power up to work optimally. So I really like that one.
Urolithin-A.
Okay,
yeah. Got it.
And then I take magnesium every single day.
What brands do you like?
I take Pure Encapsulations magnesium, and I take their Glycinate, which is relatively affordable. It's really, really helpful for anxiety, for sleep, also for muscle soreness and things like that. There's different forms of magnesium you can take that's really helpful for constipation. I don't take that one. Sometimes if I travel. I take fish oil every single day. I take one from a brand called Puori that I love because they test it really, really well. So if you're taking something every single day, you really want to make sure that it's free of contaminants. Creatine, I take every single day.
Which brand do you like?
I take Puori for that too. Creatine's an interesting one.
How do you spell Puori?
Puori. Creatine, it is not as ripe for contamination as like a fish oil or a protein powder, which are more likely to be contaminated. But because it's become so trendy, all of these different brands are kind of flooding the market, and they might not be doing as effective or clean practices as we might like. But creatine, my hack with creatine is you want to take it for about a month to saturate your muscles, and then you're going to start to see the effects. For me, I take it for my brain health much more than my muscle health. I think it has this like bodybuilder reputation, but it's incredible for brain health, for everything from dementia prevention in the long run to helping with brain fog moment to moment. And then once your muscles are saturated, you can kind of play with your dose. So for things like jet lag, you can take a little bit greater of a dose, and then your brain kind of turns off when you're jet lagged. Or if you have something like a podcast interview, I took a slightly higher dose than my normal creatine today so that my brain would just be feeling a little bit sharper, a little bit more on.
And you notice a difference.
I notice a in the moment difference. So again, you won't feel the in the moment difference until you pass that saturation point, which is about 30 days. But then when you play with the dose, you notice literally a moment to moment difference.
And use it as a powder?
It's a powder. I just mix it in with like electrolyte water and drink it in the morning. You don't want to let it sit too long in the water.
Okay.
You can't taste it at all.
Wellness requires sacrifice.
No, I'm just like these. I think that, again, wellness is a tool. Wellness is trying to get you to live a life that you wake up every day and you are like, this feels delicious. Like, I feel as good as I possibly can. And that's not a life free of negative emotions, because I think that we're here to experience the full spectrum of humanity, of human life. That can include crying, that can include being angry, that includes all of the range of emotions. But wellness is trying to help you live the most fully lived, fully present, fully satisfying life possible. Why would that be filled with sacrifice every single day? That sounds awful.
I think I know this answer. If it's not hard, it's not working.
No.
But I think that is a big misconception with wellness.
And you know what?
Yeah,
it also is a
I
big
agree.
misconception in life. This is something that I'm working on in my career this year, is that I have this idea like, oh, if I work really hard on a social media post, that makes it like a good post. Oh, if I work really hard on a presentation, that makes it a good presentation. And often the world is actually telling me the opposite. Like, the posts that do really well are the ones that I kind of put out organically. Or I'm not saying not to work hard, but I do think that we have this idea that hard work equals success, hard work equals results. And I think it's worth questioning that assumption in all facets of our life.
What if it goes back to like making you give up if it doesn't work, right? So you're like, oh, I put all this work in and it's not working.
Well, and I think there's this, I've been playing around with this mantra of like, what would this feel like if it were easy? Like, moment to moment. If I'm doing a work project, I kind of ask myself, it could be a mindset shift. It could be something I'm actually doing differently. But I kind of say, what would this feel like if it felt easy? And then I kind of try to lean into that. It's been really helpful. It's something I really struggle with.
Overcoming imposter syndrome. A lot of people, kind of feel that they are this imposter.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't hear from many men who have imposter syndrome. And I think kind of putting it in its right size place is like, is this coming internally? Is this coming from society wanting to kind of keep me in my place? It's a helpful place to start for imposter syndrome. But then one of my life mantras is never be the one to say no to yourself. So this is the idea that at any time in our lives, other people might say no to us, but we should not be the one saying no to ourselves. We should be our own biggest cheerleader. For my first book, I pitched it before I had like any right to write a book. I didn't have an audience. I barely had experience. It was a cookbook. I'd like not really developed very many recipes, but I saw a gap in the market. I literally Googled like how to write a cookbook proposal. And then I copied that. And then I Googled how to write how to find an agent. And then I like reached out to agents, and I had like 7 publishing houses bidding over this cookbook. Which started my publishing career, which, popsicle cookbooks weren't the end of that. They were very much the beginning, but that's grown from there. And now I'm working on my 4th book, which is out.
You've written 3 cookbooks.
I've written two cookbooks, 100 Ways to Change Your Life.
Right.
And then my next book, which I'm very, very excited about, is how to turn unexpected change into the best thing that could ever happen to you. And that's coming out next spring.
Oh, wow.
We're you have to come back and talk about it.
I'm really excited, but we're conducting original research about the qualities that make people thrive in moments of unexpected change, from like layoffs to breakups to AI. I think that there's unexpected gifts in so many parts of our journeys. Like, I've gotten to a place where I genuinely feel grateful for the time that I was agoraphobic, which I never, ever, ever thought I would say, because again, I was so uncomfortable that there were moments I was not sure that I wanted to live another day. And now I see the place and the gifts that had for me, and kind of I put it into the picture of my life in a way that makes sense. And I feel gratitude for it. So I think there's unexpected gifts all over the place. And I also think, to the point of imposter syndrome, it's okay to feel that way. We all feel that way. We all feel that way so much more often than anybody is talking about. Just don't let it be the thing that stops you. Let somebody else stop you. Great, that's information, but don't stop yourself.
Learn to love your body.
Yes. So I have another little mantra that I love, which is that your body is for living, not looking. Your body is the vessel through which you experience your life. It is not there to be looked at for other people's pleasure. And I don't know a single 90-year-old woman who's like, I wish I spent more time thinking about my cellulite on the beach. I know many older women who are like, I wish I had played volleyball. I wish I had run in the sand. I wish I had experienced what those waves felt like when they were lapping at my toes, instead of trying to angle my body so that nobody would see the size of my butt. Women, again, have been kept down throughout history by being distracted, by having our bodies be something that's for looking. The thing that I encourage people over and over is like, what does the experience of living in your body feel like? That doesn't mean you can't want to lose weight, for instance. I think there's like a lot of taboo around even talking about that as a desire. If that would make the experience of living for you and your body feel better, I'm all about it.
I
yes.
agree.
Totally.
100%.
Yeah.
Rewire your neural pathways for happiness. This is a big one. How we look at things, how we approach things. I always talk about, like, I was brought up in this no culture. No, you're not going to make it. No, you can't do that. No, you're this. No, you turn your nose into yeses. How does one rewire for happiness?
Well, can I ask, do you feel like there was something that you did that helped rewire your brain from all of those no's?
You don't take no for an answer.
I just think it did the opposite for me. It made me be like, well, I can do that. Like, it did the opposite. If someone would tell me no, I would be like, well, you don't know what you're talking about.
Like, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. That's how it rewired me.
I love that.
At first, it was I came from it probably a little bit like defeatist. Like, I'll tell my kids, they're like, oh, Mom, we're going to lose. Look at that. He can dunk. He's in 7th grade. He's 6. You know what I mean? I'm like, just the defeatist mentality is sometimes what we lead with. I think for me, I got defeated, but then I'm like, I'm going to try.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a person whose brain feels almost naturally wired towards more depression, more anxiety, things like that. Like, that has always been easier for me to access than happiness, which is why I love this research. This comes from Dr. Rick Hansen, and it's essentially about the plasticity of our brain. So the ability that our brains have to change the way that the actual neurons fire within them so that we experience the world in a different way every single day. And so he has a 3-step process where essentially you find any sort of positive emotion. So first, we're noticing the thing, the sunset, the conversation, whatever. Then you really want to turn up the dial on that sensation. I'm loving this sunset. Where am I feeling this in my body? What kind of thoughts is this bringing up in my head? This conversation is really intellectually stimulating. It's really like tickling parts of my brain that haven't been tickled recently. You want to turn the dial up to 11 on whatever tiny positive sensation you're feeling. This is great during sex, by the way, actually, because a lot of women have the tendency to kind of float out of their mind during sex. This is going to bring you back into your mind, back into your body, and increase your probability of having an orgasm. And then you want to sit in that turned up sensation for a little bit longer than you normally would, about 5 seconds. So turn it up, sit in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that is going to do is it's going to strengthen that neural pathway of positive feeling. So the next time that you encounter something that might be more neutral, and it's like kind of choosing the path to go in your brain, is it's going to go down that depressive,
because
anxious
we've all done it. We've all done that. Oh, you're going on the yellow brick road. Are you doing left? Or are you going right?
Path. That anxious, depressed, everything's going to shit pathway in most of our brains. That is like a cement path. And what we're trying to do through this process is turn that little dirt path of positive feelings into a cement path so that your brain is more likely to take that path in the future.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can I keep it in my back pocket? Like, I just want to have like a direct dial.
No, this video is in your ear.
You can text me anytime.
No, but I think this book is so important. I think, to Emese's point, we get so overwhelmed with, like, even wellness now has become like the supplements. What are we doing? The IVs, the peptides, to keep up with beauty alone is somewhat quite stressful now, don't you think?
I think there's just a lot of noise, and I think that there's a lot of the neural pathways that breed negativity also exist outside of our own heads, right? I think that, like, we live in a world where negativity is amplified. And I think it's very easy to then, once you start looking for negativity, finding it.
Yep.
Once you start doing things and feeling it's hard, you tell yourself it's so hard, I can't keep doing it.
Well, and that's our brain's survival mechanism, right? So your brain, when it's scanning environments, it's looking for the negative things because your brain just wants to keep you alive. It wants to spot the threats so that you can avoid the threats, so that you can literally live through the night to another day. And so our job as humans in the modern world, when we're not having lions sneak up on where we're sleeping at every single night, we need to override that tendency of our brain and tell our brain, no, I care about other things. I care about fulfillment. I care about satisfaction. I care about joy. And that has to be a conscious practice. And I think that that's something that it's a lie that we've been told, that we should be able to access these things really naturally. But our brain wants to find threats. You have to actively tell your brain, this is what I care about. This is what's important to me.
You're amazing. I mean, honestly. I wanted to say that I love when you're reminding us that change doesn't have to be extreme to be meaningful. I think it's one of our superpowers is that we can be okay with a little bit of change.
Like the two of you in your lives.
Yeah. We can pivot. We can problem solve. I'm not going to not lie. We can definitely get depressed, and we call it DDP, deep, dark place. But we can also get ourselves out of it. Not overnight. I think this book will help people do that.
Yeah. And I really try to do that on the podcast every single week too. I think a lot of podcasts can feel really overwhelming, and I want my podcast to feel like a dose of joy. Like you're hanging out with like your best friend. She's kind of sharing little tips that might help change your life, but like it's an enjoyable, motivating, exciting experience. You're not just sitting there like, oh my God, everything's terrible. Like, what do I do? Because we get enough of that to everything else we've been talking about.
We asked every guest before they go, if you could give advice to your 10-year-old self, what would it be?
I would tell my 10-year-old self to let people hug her sooner. I did not grow up in a hug family. I grew up in like a side hug family. We were not physically affectionate. And some of my earliest memories with my more affectionate friends are like them like draping their arm around me on the couch and me being so happy about it, but like trying to be like, oh, just be cool. Like don't move, because then they'll like stop touching you. You know what I mean? And as I've learned more and more about the importance of physical touch and the importance of vulnerability and connection, I just like want to tell that little 10-year-old, like you can lean into that sooner. Like hug your parents, hug your friends, let people hug you and embrace you in that way. She needed more hugs.
I'm going to give you a hug right now. 100 ways to change your life. The science of leveling up health, happiness, relationship, and success. Liz Moody. Listen to her podcast, the Liz Moody Podcast. Make sure and follow her on Instagram at Liz Moody, Moody. You're amazing. And you are real deal.
You're helping so many people.
You are helping so many people. One small thing at a time.
Thank you, guys.
You're amazing.
This is wonderful.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Lipstick on the Rim with Molly Sims and my ride or die, Emese Gormley. We are so excited to bring you guys along on this journey with us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Lipstick on the Rim and at Molly B. Sims. Or you can go to my blog where you can dive just a little bit deeper into my favorite products, trends, and more at mollysims.substack.com. And don't forget to check out our video episodes on my YouTube channel, Molly Sims. This podcast is a production with Sony Music. I wanted to give a special thanks to my team, Rosie Cummings, Kenna Ryan, Sophine Kevorkian, and everyone at Sony Music. Don't forget to listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss out on the fun.